Welcome to the Conscious Journey Podcast, where I invite you to have an open heart and an open mind to consciously explore your own life's journey as we dive into conversations that lead to discovery, growth, healing, and expansion. I'm your host, Christy Morrison. Hey guys, I am super excited for today. It is kind of a special day that I am launching my podcast, The Conscious Journey. And today's special because it is New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2023. So the numbers work out to be 123, 123. And we're never going to have another date like this in our lifetime. So I think it's pretty exciting that this is the date I decided to record my first episode. I just wanted to get to know myself with you guys and what this podcast is about, because we're going to explore this journey together. This is not just a one-sided conversation. And I really hope you'll follow me along the evolution of what this podcast is going to become. So I want to start off with, who am I? I'm sure some of you paying attention or watching this right now, you already know who I am because you saw my link. And I am Christy Morrison. I'm just going to light some incense here because if you know me, this is something that I do all the time. And these are going to be casual conversation podcasts, so I may do some weird stuff. Why not? Life is short, right? Okay, so I'm Christy Morrison. I'm currently 41 years old, and man, it was a journey to get here. And most of my life, I was not walking a conscious journey. I fell into the typical system that a lot of us fall into in North America, which is go to school, get good grades, go to college. Then once you're done college, you're going to get a job. You're going to work 9 to 5. You're going to work till you're 65, and then you're going to retire with a pension and enjoy the rest of your life. That never sat well with me. Never. I would always ask, I remember how does this make any sense? I don't get it. But it's a system that I followed, and it's a system that most of us actually followed as well. And I put in the effort, became a vet tech, worked in a facility where I was actually making really good money when I was 21-ish. And I thought I was, the queen of the world at that time. I had a really good paying job in an industry that paid like crap. And I was working with animals, and I thought, yeah, I'm absolutely amazing. The system worked. I'll have a pension, blah, blah, blah. Yay, Christy. And until I got laid off. And it was like the carpet ripped right underneath me. And it was actually one of the most pivotal moments in my life that I can pinpoint that has happened. Obviously amongst many, but this is just one of them, where it left me kind of dumbfounded. I was like, okay, so I paid attention to the system. I did it. I'm supposed to retire. And I'm fired. That means someone else was in control of my life. At any point, if I ever go back to another clinic, so let's say I went back to a clinic, I would be making 50% to 75% less than what I was making in the facility that I was already at. And I couldn't sustain a life at that time with that type of income. I did not have a wealthy, sugar daddy. Didn't happen. Wasn't in my cards. So I was dumbfounded and broken, essentially. But after crying for a few days and being really stressed out, I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad probably a year prior. Divine timing, I swear. Literally made no sense to me at the time. But now reflecting on it, it wasn't supposed to make sense to me at that time. I didn't experience anything that would make sense to me within that book. So I reflected and I realized that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you haven't read it, is by Robert Kiyosaki. Amazing, amazing book. And from that book, it made me realize that business was the key. Actually, it made me feel like the answer was business. And that was the key to solve all my future problems in this world. So I did that. I actually went to Chapters. I sat there for like 4 hours and I took there's this book like this big. It was huge. And it was about all the careers you can have in the world. And so I started sifting through it and I was like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I don't want to go. I thought I'd be a lawyer at one point. So I was like, maybe I'll be a lawyer. But I didn't want to get back into schooling for so long. Maybe I could be a doctor. Nope, definitely don't want to go to school for even longer. Maybe I could, do something handy, like, I don't know, become an electrician. Nope, just didn't call to me. And then I got to like the D's, and then I was like, design, interior design, and then all the things that went around with it. I was like, that's pretty interesting. But I also didn't want to go to school for another 3 or 4 years. I was already loaded with debt from my previous amazing follow the system. I think at the time I had like $100,000 in non-asset debt. Like, who does that? And I was like 21. How is that even possible? Oh, man. And with that, I finally got to like the H's, home staging. And that is when I was like, okay, this is something I've heard of. I actually dove into home staging on just on Google. And many of you know the story is because I had, Eric and I had a home in Quebec and it didn't sell for 1.5 years. So we were carrying 2 homes, 2 bills, 2 mortgages, everything for like 1.5 years. And it pretty much financially almost destroyed us. But we didn't give up. So through that process, I remembered I went through the home staging and I was like, oh, well, yeah, the house was filled with funky colors. I could see past that. Why can't everyone else? And that's when I started getting into, actually the home sold and I brushed it off. So this process now, I remembered home staging. So I went home and I started Googling how to become a home stager, and the training seemed pretty simple. So I was like, what do I have to lose? I'm like, yeah, I'm in a massive amount of debt with Eric, but what's another $2,000 to obtain a new skill that will hopefully help us pay things off and free things up? So I jumped in and I did amazing. That's when I started transforming into this boss bitch kind of mentality. I started my staging business when I actually called the 4 stagers. There was only 4 in the city of Ottawa where I was living at the time. And 3 of them didn't answer their call. And the one lady who did answer said, don't bother getting started. You'll never make it. And that was the defining moment. I was just like, who do you think you are telling me I can't make it? And that lit the fire within me I needed to launch my business. And I absolutely operated from day one like I was operating an actual company. I had staff, and I use air quotes if you're listening to the podcast and not watching the video. I had staff that would work for me, but it was all me. So like Miranda, whatever her name was, I forget what I called her, she was my admin. And then I'd be like, yes, I have an assistant. I'll get her to go pick this up. And then I'd be going to pick it up. And whatever it was, I always would use verbiage that I had a team and we operated as a team. And this is how we're doing. And we're number 1 and blah, blah, blah. And we're growing, growing, growing. And all that number 1 stuff was like my mindset. I'm like, we're going to be number 1. And I should probably do like a podcast on manifesting because I've manifested some amazing things in life. And in the short 2-year time period, my company, I called it Capital Home Staging and Design. And my company was I built it to number one, essentially, in a short 2-year time period. I won like the Better Business Bureau Torch Award for marketplace ethics. With my real estate association, I was like the number one stager in Ottawa, number two in Canada, and it felt freaking amazing. I worked with like the top 20% of real estate agents in the city of Ottawa. We were very busy, and at that time of winning the award in 2 years, I did actually have staff. I think one of my first staff members was this girl, Natasha. Like, from there, it was game on. I just proved that anything is possible, and I delivered an amazing business in such a short 2-year time period. So, through the years I had my company, I could do anything. There's so many awards that I have won, and I would set a goal and I would smash it, and I would set another goal and I would smash it. And I'm not saying this to be like boastful. I'm just saying that was my mindset at that time. This is me reflecting. This is me and a part of my journey where that was a massive process in my life. I was literally designing every moment of my life through incremental goals. And I would set a goal and then work extremely hard to get there, utilizing whatever I had at my disposal around me. And then I would smash that goal. And then once that goal was done, I would feel great. And then if, whatever time period passes, I would feel deflated. And so I continued to set goals because it became an addiction, actually, to go and set goals and then smash them, go and set goals and smash them. And over time, it actually became a habit of trying to achieve all the time. And it was exhausting, to be honest. And there hit a point, and it was about year 6 within my company. I think I was like 31 at the time. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was having my dark night of the soul. And for those of you who don't know what that is, I'll give you a definition. So I'm going to read this. According to psychiatrist Anne Newsom, the dark night of the soul represents a breaking away from the illusion of fear and ego, leading to a shift in alignment and values towards what is real and true. It is a stage of spiritual depression characterized by feelings of hopelessness, isolation, and a profound quest for purpose and meaning. This transformation process is seen as a necessary and powerful journey towards authentic alignment, awareness, and more fulfilling life. So I had absolutely no clue what was going on in my life. And it wasn't until later on when I found out what the dark night of the soul was, things started, they started clicking for me. And that's when I started my conscious journey. So all I knew is when I had my staging company and I was winning awards, I could buy whatever I wanted. Had a little bit of an obsession with nice things like designer purses, really nice shoes, flashy watches. And yeah, you're still going to see some of that in my life here. I didn't do what some people do, is pack it all up and throw it out and denounce it. No, it's part of my life. And I respect those items that I still have in my life as it shows me where I've been, what I've learned, and it inspires me to continually check myself to see, okay, is what I'm proceeding on aligning with my heart or with my ego? And this lifestyle that I've created through business was purely grown on expanding and smashing goals. Yes, I enjoyed staging, but it was like a necessity. Like I felt like I created that company out of necessity to pay the bills so I didn't have to go back and get a job. And when I had this breaking point, I felt really guilty. It was so hard for me to be the owner of a number one company in Ottawa, speaking in Vegas to my colleagues and peers on platforms talking about how busy we are, telling them the tips and tricks that I did, sharing how I grew it on social media. And I felt so phony. I felt fake. I felt horrible because there was absolutely every fiber in my being was just saying, how can you smash these goals, look so happy on the outside, have all these items, and feel so miserable on the inside? It made no sense to me. First, I followed the system of life. It failed. Then I followed the system of business, and now it's looking like it's failing. So I was left wondering, what else is there in life? There has to be something more, and it can't be just an entire life of being born and then dying whenever you die. So let's say we die when we're 100 or 200, whatever that time frame is. Are we literally here to be a slave to our bills, to our money, to our lifestyle, to our addiction? I had addictions, and I don't mean drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. Addictions meaning like flashy cars, the latest iPhone, the things that we don't really need in our lives, but we feel like we do. And most of the time it's to impress who? So I really couldn't shake this feeling that there had to be something more in life. Hit me to my core. Where is this coming from? And how is this even a freaking thing? And this is I would like to pinpoint this as another pivotal point in my life. And the start of where I began to unknowingly start my conscious journey. I started to listen to how things made me feel. I had an overactive mind. It would run a million miles a minute. It was hard for me to fall asleep because I'd always have these things in my head. Did I do this? Did I do that? What else do I have to do? Blah, blah, blah. And I hear so many of my friends say the exact same thing at that point in my life, that they too had all these things going in their mind. And that's when I started getting into meditation. And that was freaking phenomenal. At first, just like everyone who tries it, I sat there and I was like, this is a waste of time. This isn't doing anything. I feel absolutely nothing. I can't believe this is happening. Like, I should be doing XYZ. And I felt guilty for trying to meditate, but I stuck with it. And it actually took about a year of sitting there for about 20 minutes every single day, trying to just release the thoughts that came into my mind. It wasn't about forgetting, and I thought it was when I started, but when I realized it's about releasing, a thought would come up and just pass it on. That was the pivotal point where I started to be able to calm my mind, and now I can just sit and be present. I can be in a room and just not have a million things going through my head. I could read a book and not worry about how much things I have to do or stress about all the things that I'm not doing in that current moment. I can actually enjoy the moment and pretty much just be. And I have to give credit to the fact that I started meditating, which I wouldn't have done if I didn't have the feeling of the hopelessness that I had in my company, and why I wasn't so content in all that I had, because isn't that what we're supposed to be content with this? This is what we were told to. So I want to acknowledge that is exactly where the start of my conscious journey has began. And this is why I'm launching this podcast. My tagline, for now, it might change, who knows, but right now my tagline is growing together through our human experiences on this journey with an open heart and open mind. We'll allow listeners to discover things and change their current reality, and maybe inspire them to go on their own conscious journey or a self-reflection journey. Because all of the answers we ever need, they're within us. And yes, I understand. You've heard this before. And if you're anything like me back then, that statement is annoying AF. What do you mean? The answers are within. I get it. I know it doesn't make any sense, But if you begin to become conscious, and throughout this podcast, we will actually be exploring what it is to be conscious on your journey and how to do it. It's essentially paying attention. If you start paying attention and reflecting on certain moments within your life, you'll begin to see a pattern. And on this journey, we're going to have a variety of different interviews on this podcast. I'm going to have intriguing people with intriguing lives. I'm going to have people who've done so much personal development. They are specialists themselves. I'm going to have different spiritual leaders. And I'm going to have personal stories, not only from my own journey sprinkled in here, but also journeys of those that I've met along the way and have completely inspired me. And I would like to say I want to have some of my audience's stories. I want to hear from you. And regardless of your own journey, you may be conscious of it. You may not be. You may think that, there's no actual divine orchestration happening and you are protected along the way. I get it. But I want to hear your journey as you go through it. So maybe you'll reach out to me in the next couple of weeks, or maybe you'll reach out in the next couple of years. But at some point, I would love to hear from you about your story. And if I absolutely love it, I'll feature you. I'll read it during one of these episodes. I might even make a current episode. Who knows? I just want this to be fluid, open, exciting, and I want it to be inspirational. And the biggest thing I found is I'm inspired by other people's journeys and how they got to where they are through the hurdles. We all have hurdles, and it feels like we can be alone in this world a lot. And I hope through this podcast you understand that you're not alone. You are supported. You are guided. And please share those stories. So you can send it to my email called ConsciousJourneyPodcast@gmail.com. And I think this is amazing. I am so excited that we've gotten to this point so far. I really want to also kind of start a tradition today on December 31st, 2023, this magical day. I want to start off with kind of a tradition where I'm going to ask 3 questions and I'm going to have the guest answer them. I'm going to answer these questions as well. I should have thought of these answers before, but I didn't. I just kind of jumped on here knowing I had questions, but not really answering them. So my first question I'll always ask is, what is your favorite spiritual or personal growth book and why? So for me, I did share about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That would qualify under a personal growth book. And yes, there are still amazing content in there, even though I felt at my journey, the business didn't work. However, I do realize now it was the kind of business and the business that I launched out of necessity. So business is still amazing, and being your own boss, you can do amazing things, but you use your heart, don't use your brain. So I'd say my number one spiritual book that really stands the test of time, I think it's Eckhart Tolle's The Untethered Soul. That is a phenomenal book. It's very simple, very easy to read. It's a micro book. It's very tiny. You could probably read it in a weekend or a day. Highly recommend that one. My next question is, what does the conscious journey mean to you? I kind of shared this during the podcast, but it is good to reiterate that the conscious journey to me is becoming aware of our lives. I fully believe with every fiber of my being that we are co-creating our reality through some divinely orchestrated map with our own free will. So becoming conscious of this journey is about recognizing synchronicities, recognizing points that speak to us and we have no idea why they're speaking to us, and acknowledging them, acknowledging these moments, because when you reflect back and see why these things happened, it starts becoming really cool when you start seeing these paths. So to me, the conscious journey is essentially being aware of the path that we're on and really making decisions that fill and feed your heart versus responding to what life is giving you because you're told how to do something. We're 9 billion people on this planet? I do not believe for 1 second all of us are supposed to do the exact same thing as the other. And from my journey, this is question number 3. From your journey, what is one valuable lesson you learned? Just one. I know everyone's going to hate this one because I already do. One invaluable lesson that I've learned on my journey is being authentic. I'll probably share another podcast on this specifically, but the short version is I used to be very shy because I would get made fun of all the time for being loud and fun and exciting, and I actually even got beaten up for smiling too much in pre-high school. I think it was like grade 8. All those things that happened in my life to shove me in a box and make me try and not smile, not be loud, fit in, be quiet, sit in a corner, behave yourself, be a good girl. It was soul crushing. And that invaluable lesson I learned only through the launching of my company, because I soared so high and so fast by being authentic and passionate about what I was doing that the lesson really stood out and it's ingrained in my body. Which is why, even like right now, I don't care what people think of me. You may think this podcast is stupid. Okay. It doesn't bother me. And that is because I'm authentically sharing from my heart. If you don't like what I have to say, that's fine. You're on a different journey. And hopefully those that do resonate and do like what I have to share will join this journey with me, share it with their friends who think that they would also like to share it, and just be conscious of your own journey, forming and expanding in ways that make you your best self, living every day with intention, purpose, care. And when you show up that way, you have a profound impact on everyone around you. So guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you to all you curious beings for tuning into my first episode, where I hope that you really enjoyed the conversation that I brought to the table, and I hope you will join us for many, many more. Until then, enjoy your own conscious journey, my friends, and we'll catch you on the next one.